Well, hello guys, my name is Parsh Gupta and today I'm going to talk about advanced persistent threats. Now this is the basic agenda for my video presentation. As you can see, there are 20 points in the agenda. Now the points 1 to 10 will be covered by me and the points 11 to 20 will be covered in the subsequent video by my colleague Sunaina Bhaumik. Moving on. Now before I begin my video presentation, I would like to tell you about some of the lecture limitations in this presentation. Now as the first point states that please note that the information in this PowerPoint presentation doesn't cover all the known techniques that can be used to identify an advanced persistent threat. Okay, now there are many techniques to identify an advanced persistent threat, but in our presentation we have used only a hand-picked very few major techniques that can be used to identify an APT attack. Now there are numerous methods which can be used to identify an APT attack, but I have not covered all those methods in my presentation. Now the second point, please note that the terms like cyberwar doesn't have a single and full definition. Now due to this, you may find out that the terminology in the PowerPoint presentation may vary from other resources. Okay, now the term cyberwar does not have a single definition. Now this term may vary from country to country or from organization to organization. For example, if I am working for government, cyberwar for me might mean a different definition, whereas for a hacker or a terrorist, cyberwar might mean a different definition. So the cyberwar does not have a single and full definition. Now all the logos and names used in this presentation are the property of their respective owners. I am merely using them as examples of such products. Okay, now what is an advanced persistent threat? Now APT is a targeted attack against a specific entity that tries to avoid detection and steal information over a period of time. Usually the attacker behind the APT will use several pieces of malware and security technologies to build up an attack. Now what is advanced? What does advanced means? Now advanced basically means that the attacker adapts to defenders' efforts, can develop or buy zero-day exploits, and the attacker has a higher level of sophistication. Now persistent. Persistent means that attacks are objective specific. The attacks will continue until the goal is reached, and the intent is to maintain long-term connectivity. Now what is a threat? Now threat is basically entity or entities behind the attack, and it is not the malware or exploit or attack alone. So basically an advanced persistent threat attack is a targeted attack. Now what is a targeted attack? Now suppose I am a hacker and I want to hack a specific organization. So my target is fixed, that I want to hack this specific organization. Now APT attack is not just that you create a worm or a malware and you spread it, and whichever companies or organizations you infect with that, it's a victory for you. No, it's not that. APT attacks are limited to a specific target or a specific entity, and the intent is to maintain long-term connectivity, not to just exploit or damage the computer and log off immediately without being recognized. But an APT attack is basically to stay in the computer systems which have been compromised for as long as possible. Now in the threats, you might see that threat is not the malware or exploit or attack alone. Now what does this mean? Okay, so this basically means that APTs are not a single type of threat, but rather a classification of malicious software. They don't have a single developer and they don't come from a single source. So APT is not just a virus, a worm, a malware, a hacktivist, or not just one particular thing, but it is a combination of all those which are organized into a package. APT attacks don't have a single developer, meaning that the motive or the hacker or the entity behind the attack is not just a single person, but it's a group of persons. So APT attacks are not carried out by a single or a specific person, and they don't come from a single source. Now advanced persistent threats are difficult to detect. Now as you can see in this clip art here or in this image here, APTs are fast entry and slow detection. That means that using an advanced persistent threat, it is very easy to compromise the system, but to detect whether an APT attack has occurred in the system is very, very difficult. Okay, now you might, as soon as you see the slide, you might visualize an image of the movie World War Z. Okay, so let me tell you, Cyberwar Z, or what is Cyberwar? We are living in the world where we are all dominated by electronics or computers nowadays. And yes, cyberwar is real and it's happening right now. So basically, cyber warfare, or it is known as Silent World War III. So what is basically cyber warfare? Cyber warfare is internet-based conflict involving politically motivated attacks on information and information systems. Cyber warfare attacks can disable official websites and networks, disrupt or disable essential services, steal or alter classified data, and cripple the financial systems. Now, as you can see in this image here, you can see the relation between cyber security and cyber warfare. As you can see in this particular statistics, the number of reported cybercrime incidents in 2006 and 2012, it is a huge difference. So basically every year the number of reported cybercrime incidents almost doubles, or you can say almost in every 3 or 4 years the number of incidents almost doubles or triples. Now, as you can see here, these are the number of reported cybercrime incidents. Now let me tell you one thing very clearly. The number of cyber war attacks or the number of cybercrime incidents that occurs and the number of reported incidents are in the ratio of 10:1. That means that for every 10 attacks that occur, only 1 is reported. So this is the scenario of today's cyber world. Now here you can see top 5 cyber threats reported by the government, which basically includes malware, phishing, data leakage, hacking and spam. Now let me tell you about what are all this in brief and very quickly. So malware is basically software used to damage, disrupt or gain access to the computer system, and it is the most reported cyber threat by the government. Phishing is basically acquiring sensitive information from a computer such as passwords, bank account details, usernames, etc. by pretending to be a trustworthy entity. Data leakage is basically sensitive data that falls in the hands of third persons either by mistake or on purpose. Hacking is basically to get unauthorized access to a computer system, and spam is electronic messages sent to a bulk of users aimed at advertising, phishing or spreading malware. So these are the top 5 cyber threats reported by the government according to the US CERT report 2013. Alright, now you can see here what are the statistics of cyber warfare. So these are basically cyber warfare conducted by different countries in the timeline shown here, and below you can see here cyber warfare is basically cyber attacks authorized by national governments against other governments or non-state actors aimed at causing physical damage. Now you might not be able to see it is because the font size is very less, so let me just read it out. In 2013, UK is the first state to admit to build cyber warfare capabilities. In May 2014, the US government indicted that Chinese military officials for industrial cyber espionage. So what it basically means. Now cyber warfare has been happening since the year 2003, or you can term it as late as 1990s actually. But in 2013, UK was the first country to admit that yes, it has conducted cyber war on different countries. Now, conducting an activity which is not legal and owning up that activity are two different things. Now, UK was the first country to admit to build cyber warfare capabilities. Now, moving next. Yes. Now I would like you to please see this video very carefully, as it would clear all your basic doubts about an advanced persistent threat and what is a cyber war. Basically this video is about cyber warfare. So if you have any doubts related to what is a cyber war, how is it conducted and what are the effects of cyber war, please watch this video very carefully.
Wars are a tragic part of our history and will almost certainly be a tragic part of our future.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Yes, now you can watch. Or just wait.
Wars are a tragic part of our history and will almost certainly be a tragic part of our future. Wars are a tragic part of our history and will almost certainly be a tragic part of our future. Since the establishment of the United Nations, wars of aggression have been outlawed, and multilateral conventions refer to armed conflict instead of war. But the wars of the future won't be like the wars of our past. Alongside traditional warfare, our future will include cyber warfare, remotely fighting our enemies through the use of a new class of weapons, including computer viruses and programs to alter the enemy's ability to operate. And not only is cyber warfare not covered by existing legal frameworks, but the question of what exactly constitutes cyber warfare is still highly debated. So how can we deal with cyber warfare if we can't even
to envision situations where new international laws may be needed. Imagine a new kind of assassin, one that could perpetrate a crime without firing a single shot or even being in the same country. For example, an individual working for the government uses a wireless device to send a signal to another foreign leader's pacemaker. This device directs the pacemaker to malfunction, ultimately resulting in the foreign leader's death. Would this cyber assassination constitute an act of war? As a second example, imagine an allied group of nations cooperatively infiltrating the computer systems of an enemy nation's nuclear warship. This attack results in a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier almost melting down,
which was stopped just short of killing thousands of soldiers and civilians as a defensive measure.
The enemy country responds by unleashing a defensive cyber attack that results in the allied nation's power grids going down. Hospitals can no longer treat patients, entire regions without heat or clean water, all ultimately causing tens of thousands of civilian deaths. The origin of the power failure was the counterattack, but the fragile infrastructure, feeble cybersecurity, and the antiquated state of the power grid all contributed to the deaths of the civilians. Could the country fight back? Who would they fight? And would their retaliation be considered an act of war? Do they constitute war crimes against humanity? Who is to be held responsible? The computer programmers who wrote the code? The military project manager who oversaw the creation of the code? The commander who hit the button setting off the event? The hardware engineer who created the computers knowing that they were intended to enable an attack? Because war has been with us for so long, we have laws to deal with figuring out who should be held accountable for their actions in combat. These legal frameworks aim to contain and prevent atrocities from being more atrocious, commandeering civilian planes and using them as weapons, dropping atomic bombs, the use of gas chambers or poisonous gas in conflict. All of these actions, if committed, constitute acts of war and war crimes under customary international law and the Hague Conventions. Again, the current legal framework stays silent on hypothetical questions and countless others because there are no easy answers. And there are only two ways to make progress on these questions: peace or new laws. So, what hypothetical but plausible scenarios can you imagine falling under the burgeoning definition of cyber warfare? And how might you design an international legal framework to deter these activities?
Okay, so now in this video you have seen what is basically a cyber warfare, and if a cyber warfare occurs, then who needs to be held accountable is still not clear. Now these are the examples of cyber warfare involving APT attacks. In 1998, the United States hacked into Serbia's air defense system to compromise the air traffic control and facilitate the bombing of Serbian targets. Similarly, in 2007, in Estonia, a botnet of over 1 million computers brought down government, business and media websites across the country. The attack was suspected to have originated in Russia, motivated by political tension between the two countries. Also in 2007, an unknown foreign party hacked into high-tech and military agencies in the United States and downloaded terabytes of information. In 2009, a cyber spy network called GhostNet accessed confidential information belonging to both governmental and private organizations in over 100 countries around the world. GhostNet was reported to originate in China, although that country denied responsibility. Now these are some of a few basic examples of cyber warfare that involved APT attacks. Now this is the evolution of cyber warfare. As you can see, in 2005, the main techniques used to disrupt the system was worms and viruses, which basically evolved into spyware and bots, and nowadays we use advanced persistent threats, zero-day attacks, targeted attacks, dynamic trojans and stealth bots for performing a cybercrime. This is again a evolution, or I would say revolution of cyber warfare. Now cyber vandalism turned into cybercrime, which turned into targeted attacks and cyber warfare. Now, cyber vandalism is basically, suppose I hack into a computer system and I take full responsibility of it. So just my basic motive is to gain fame and money, that yes, I have hacked into the system and I'm owning up that. That is basically cyber vandalism. Cybercrime is basically when I hack into a system but I don't take up the responsibility, or no one knows who has hacked into a system. Whether the intention was to compromise data or to destroy or corrupt the system is still not known. That is basically cybercrime. Now, targeted attacks in cyber warfare, as I already discussed. Cyber warfare or targeted attack is basically aimed at a specific organization and not just random organizations. Cyber warfare is real, yes. Now, what are the community of attackers when it comes to cyber warfare? As you can see, there are three community of attackers, and they are criminals, nation-state actors, and non-state actors. Now, nation-state actors basically includes government employed agencies or government employed people for performing hacking activities and all. Now, non-state actors includes terrorists and anti-establishment vigilantes. So these are the community of attackers. Now, this clipart or this picture shows how North Korea has hacked the Sony pictures, and this is the evidence of that. As you can see here, what was the combination of the APT? In the APT, as I already told you, it is not just a single virus or a single worm, but it is a combination of different types of virus, worms or malwares, etc. Now, these are the names of HDD Viper malware which was included in the package, and this was the name of the malware which was there when the malware or the APT attack was deployed in the target. Now, how was it spreaded? Now, this includes all that information, registered service names, and file to duplicate creation time. So this is basically the evidence how the North Korea has hacked the Sony pictures. Now,
hi and welcome to Elite MW.
Please watch this video very carefully. Now, there is a website known as NORSE. If you open that website, you can see real-time scenario of cyber warfare happening. The originator, the destination, and what is the IP of the originator if the IP is traceable, what are the different attack origins, and what are the different attack types. I have included a very basic video. Please watch this very carefully.
Hi and welcome to Elite MWO Agenda on YouTube. I thought I would share this with you guys, thanks to W7 for pointing it out. Yeah, this is something very interesting. It's not thermonuclear warfare, and it's not a game. It's actually cyber warfare, live and as it happens. It's pretty crazy. It's from a website called Norse, and every second Norse collects and analyzes live threat intelligence from darknets in hundreds of locations in over 40 countries. The attacks shown are based on small subset of live flows against the infrastructure.
Okay, so now you have seen. Please go to the website norsemap.org and see for yourself. It displays a real-time information of the attacks originating from which country and from how the attack, where the attack is going to. Now, suppose you can see here how the attack originated from China. It is going to the US. So this is how it Norse shows some real-time attacks happening in and around the world. Now, moving forward. Alright. Now, what are the APT? Some characteristics of APT are: it doesn't destroy the systems, don't interrupt the normal operation, try to stay hidden and keep the stolen data flowing, and trick a user into installing malware, which is basically known as spear phishing. Now, as you can see here, how an APT attack is performed. Now, targeted malicious email is sent to the user. User clicks on the link to a malicious website. The malicious website exploits client-side vulnerability, and drive-by download of malicious payload occurs into the client system. This is how basically a very basic APT attack, how it takes place. Now, this is the comparison between traditional and APT attacks. Now, how are APT attacks different from all the other type of cybercrime or all the other types of attacks? This basically is a comparison between them. Now, traditional attacks is mostly a single person is involved, whereas in APT attack, highly organized, sophisticated, determined, and well-resourced group is involved. In traditional attack, the target is unspecified, whereas in APT attacks, the target is specified. Similarly, The purpose is financial benefits in traditional attacks, and in APT attacks the purpose is competitive advantages. Okay, now please go to this link and see how much you have understood the basics of APT attack, as it will help you clear the basics, and if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me at my email ID, which is presented at the end of the video. Now please go through this quiz one and see where you stand. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed the quiz. Now moving forward, now what are the goals and motives behind an APT attack? There are basically three motives, or what motivates APT attacks are basically divided into three categories, that is information theft, espionage and sabotage. Now what is information theft? Now when the attacker aims to acquire information owned by the target and or stored in the target's network. Now this information may be in the form of customers' information, business critical information or intellectual property. Targeted attacks are so effective at information theft that 25% of all the data breaches since 2005 were the result of targeted attacks. Now the RSA data breach is a very notable example of an attack motivated by information theft, where data pertaining to secure ID technology was stolen. The attackers managed to infiltrate the security company's network through carefully crafted spear phishing mail, which carried malware that exploited certain Adobe Flash Player vulnerabilities. From there, the attackers stole all the data they can find. So information theft is basically the attacker aims to acquire information in the target's network. Moving on, now what is espionage? When the goal of the attacker is to monitor the activities of the targets and steal information such that the targets may have information that could compromise national security. Yes, you heard it very clearly. The goal of the espionage attack, or the goal of the attacker in espionage, is to compromise national security. Now it can be very dangerous or very deadly. Now this was seen with Operation Pawn Storm and the campaign of hacking group Rocket Kitten, where the attackers hacked into the systems of high-profile entities. The most recent update to Pawn Storm involved the surveillance of foreign affairs ministries around the globe, while Rocket Kitten most recently targeted an Iranian lecturer as well as info security researchers. Now this is a basic example of an espionage attack, and as you can see in the all the countries which are in red, these are the victims of the advanced cyber espionage network. Now espionage attack is the goal is to compromise national security, and these are the countries that Operation Red October is the name of an APT attack. These are the countries which it had affected very successfully. Now what is sabotage? Now when the goal of the attacker is the destruction, defamation or the blackmail of its targets, it is known as sabotage. Now this was seen in the Sony and Ashley Madison data breaches, where the attackers used the stolen information to blackmail the company into acceding to specific demands. In the Sony data breach, the attackers demanded that Sony not leak a controversial film that was discovered in their leaked information, even going as far as to threaten terrorist acts on theatres that will play the film. Similarly, in the Ashley Madison data breach, the attackers threatened to release all the customer information they stole unless Avid Life Media, the owner of the adult networking site, shut down its operations for good. Now these are some of the common goals of APT attacks. Previously we have seen what motivates an APT attack, and now we are seeing what are the common goals of an APT attack. So the common goals can be theft, fraud, DDoS and sabotage, criminal action, economic apocalypse, political act, cyber war, display capabilities just for fun, or waiting for new tasks. Now what are the 6 different phases of an APT attack? As you can see in this slide, it is basically intelligence gathering, followed by point of entry, followed by command and control communication, followed by lateral movement, which is followed by asset and data discovery, and finally data exfiltration. So these are the 6 phases of APT attacks. As you can see, it is the same slide. Now moving on. Now what is intelligence gathering, or what is the first phase of APT attack? In intelligence gathering, the attackers begin with extensive research and using readily available public information, network scanning tools, social media and other sources, they identify promising points of entry and uncover the structure of your defenses. Their plan of attack is based on the intelligence they have gathered. Okay, now what happens in intelligence gathering is, suppose you are using Facebook and you have uploaded your very basic information and your pictures. So now you are suppose you are the CIO or the CEO of your company. So being an hacker, I will gather all the information regarding about you using the social media. Now what is the second phase of an APT attack? It is basically point of entry. In point of entry, in one common tactic in one common tactic called spear phishing, an employee receives an apparently legitimate email with a normal seeming file attached or containing a link to a malicious URL. Now, another tactic called a watering hole attack may compromise a legitimate website of interest to people in your industry, which then downloads the malware to connected systems that match your organization's profile. Now, other techniques may also be used, including directly hacking the target system, penetrating a partner's network and hitching a ride into yours via normal communication, using unsecured or third-party networks, and delivering attack code via a USB or other removable storage media. Now, point of entry is basically how do I compromise a computer within an organization? How do I gain access to that computer is basically what is known as point of entry. Now, as you can see in the slide, how a watering hole technique works. Now, basically, attacker gathers initial intelligence to determine which sites to target. Then the attacker injects exploit into the selected sites, often visited by target victims. The exploit drops the malware onto vulnerable systems, and using the dropped malware, the attacker may now initiate his malicious activities. This is how a watering hole technique works. And this is a very important slide. Now, what is the effectiveness? How the watering hole attack affected so many companies? As you can see in this, the watering hole attack in 2012 infected 500 companies all within 24 hours. So it infected 500 companies within one day. Now, so basically watering hole attacks are targeted at specific groups and can capture a large amount of victims in a very short time. Now, please focus on this. Now, this is basically a spear phishing attack super timeline. Now, whenever we do something, everything is stored in logs. So each and every key I press on the keyboard, or each and everything in my computer, or whatever I do, it is basically stored in the registry logs. Now, as you can see in this timeline, as you can see here, the spear phish email received with respect to a Java applet attack, and how the malware was run from which folder, how the files were dropped. So each and everything is basically logged. Now, the third phase of APT attack is command and control. So once inside a targeted device, the malware communicates with a CNC server to deliver information, receive instructions, and download further malware. This allows the attackers to actively respond to your security efforts or to information about your network. Now, the CNC traffic can occur from a trusted IP address or a malicious host using various communication and encryption protocols. Now, the fourth phase of APT attack is basically lateral movement. Now, from the initial point of entry, attackers need to identify other assets within your network and move from system to system. Now, suppose that I have gained access to one system within an organization. Now, using that system, I may want to gain access to other systems in the same organization. So that is basically lateral movement. Now, they seek out directories, emails, and administration servers in order to map the internal structure of your network and obtain credentials to access these systems. Okay. Now, how does lateral movement occur? This is very complicated, so I am going to explain you in brief. So here you can see what is known as machine access. So when the hacker accesses a machine using these parameters, you can see here spear phishing is one of the basic techniques to conduct an APT attack. So when I gain access to one machine, now my motive is to perform a lateral access to gain access to all the machines within the same network. So I perform the lateral access using these parameters or using these techniques, that is using hashes or keylogs, sniffing passwords, etc. So this is basically how an APT lateral movement occurs. Moving on. Now, the fifth phase of APT attack is asset or data discovery. Now, suppose I perform lateral movement, I have gained access to 100 different systems within an organization. Now, by scanning selected ports, monitoring the internal traffic and other techniques, attackers then seek to identify the specific servers and services that contain your most valuable data. And final phase of APT attack is data exfiltration. Now, in the final stage, attackers copy the data they want to extract and monetize. They use encryption, compression, and other techniques to disguise it, and they transmit it to external locations under their control. Most commonly, they will then put it up for sale on the black market. As you can see here, the average data exfiltration incident involves 410 MB of data, which is very crucial company-specific data which can be exploited by a hacker. These are some basic statistics of how the data exfiltration occurs and the number of serious breaches. Okay, now I'm going to explain you all the 6 phases of APT attack in brief. Now, suppose I want to transfer the funds or withdraw money from, suppose, a specific bank or something. So how do I perform an APT attack on a bank? As you can see here, in the first phase, intelligence gathering, attackers gather their threat intelligence on their target network. Point of entry, attackers send spear phishing emails to the bank employees. command and control communication, remote malicious user execute the commands. Lateral movement, to move laterally across networks, attackers use a remote access Trojan to reach other systems. Asset or data discovery, identify documents to exfiltrate. And finally, data exfiltration, sensitive bank documents are stolen. This is how an APT attack works. Okay guys, now please click on the following link or go to the following link and see for yourself how much you have understood till now. There are 10 basic questions in the quiz and see where you stand or how you perform in the quiz. So please click on the link below. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed the quiz. Now moving forward. Okay, now coming to the real world scenario, or how is it applicable to the real world applications? What is an APT attack? Why APT attack? I'm focusing so much. So now I'm going to talk about how APTs are related in the real world scenario. Now as you can see in this slide, APTs and the enterprise. How APT attack breaches the enterprises? There are basically three different ways, which are internet malware infections, physical malware infections, and external exploitation. Now you can see here that the internal malware infections includes email attachments, spear phishing, etc. The physical malware infection includes infected CDs and DVDs, infected USB memory sticks, etc. And external exploitation includes rogue Wi-Fi penetration or cloud provider penetration. So these are the three different ways on how an APT attack can breach an enterprise. Now what are the business impacts of an APT attack? The strategic impacts of targeted attacks and advanced threats include unexpected strategic impacts, unexpected risk, and unexpected costs. So there are three different categories of impacts of an APT attack. Okay, now you can see here there are 5 categories. Business impacts of APT attack are basically divided into 5 categories and most of the businesses are located here. So what I mean by this is, suppose just a very basic school or organization will their business are set up in A. That basically means that they will use some very basic tools or very basic suppose just virus scanners to scan basic viruses. Now B is B. The companies which are situated at B basically employ a tools-based approach, which is basically antivirus, endpoint protection, and rules-based approach. C is basically integrated picture that looks across application data and security data. The companies situated at D are employs dynamic defense techniques, which is basically automatically illuminating malware events and moves from conventional threat to APT. And finally, we come across resilient enterprise databases or government or organizations which can withstand an APT attack using a preventive and predictive approach. Now, most of the businesses are here. What I mean to say is the businesses which are located here are not at all defended against APT attacks, whereas businesses which are located here are very well defended against APT attacks, or I should say against known APT attacks. Now these are some of the business impacts of APT attack. Now you can see here these are some unexpected strategic impacts, which includes loss of revenue, loss of intellectual property, erosion of market value, etc. The unexpected risks include litigation by shareholders, customers, employees, or deterioration of your brand equity. Unexpected cost includes internal, external investigation, compensation, etc. Okay, now moving forward. Now, is your enterprise at risk? Now, today's reality is that the advanced enterprises are virtual, hyper-connected, information-centric. Advanced security is risk-based, agile, and contextual, whereas advanced threats are stealthy, dynamic, and targeted. As you can see, this is a basic statistics here. Advanced persistent threats are real. Yes, it is. Now, is your enterprise at risk? Now, these are some of the basic statistics. As you can see here, 47% respondents believe that APTs were a new and unique threat, and 53% respondents believed APTs are similar to what they have dealt with in the past. How are people handling the threats? They basically used antivirus or anti-malware, network technologies, and intrusion prevention systems. Alright, now please click on the following link for another quiz and see where you stand, how much you have understood till now, and let's see. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed the quiz. Now moving forward. Now what is the enterprise threat landscape in today's scenario? Now the figures are very staggering. Now you can see here that 65% of organizations don't believe that they have sufficient resources to prevent advanced threats. 72% of organizations saw an increase of advanced threats in the last 12 months. 83% of organizations believe that they have been the victim of an advanced threat. 51% of these advanced threats result in IT downtime. 44% of these result in the theft of confidential or sensitive information, and 45% of these threats result in the theft of intellectual properties. Okay, alright, now as you can see here that breaches happen in hours but go undetected for months or even years. Yes, this is true. Now it is very easy to gain access to a system or to attack a system, but to identify whether an attack has occurred or not is very difficult. As you can see here in the statistics, in 60% of the breaches, data is stolen in hours and 54% of the breaches are not discovered for months. So this is the today's reality, or you can say today's scenario of the enterprise landscape. Again, there are too many threats and too few professionals. Now 62% increase in breaches in 2013. Now 1 in 5 organizations have experienced an APT attack. Now just imagine 1 in 5 organizations have experienced an APT attack, and 8 months is the average time an advanced threat goes unnoticed on a victim's network. 8 months. Now just imagine, if I want to steal information about an organization or a network, how much information I can steal in 1 day, a week, 1 month. Now just imagine 8 months without being noticed that I am stealing information or the hacker is stealing an information from a company. It's a very long time, and it can result the company. It can impact the company in very different ways. It can cause loss of revenue, or the company might have lost some brand deterioration or something. So the effects are very, very large scale of APT attacks. Now too few professionals. So what I mean to say is, suppose it is more easy to conduct an attack than to defend from that attack. This is the scenario of today's world. How can an APT attack affect the affected company's customers? Now till now I have discussed how the APT attack affects the company. Now I'm going to discuss how the APT attack affects the customers of the company. Now as you can see, there are 4 points here. That is basically identity theft, blackmail, financial loss and reputation loss. Now identity theft is basically where the attacker steals the information of the customers. Blackmail is basically when the attacker blackmails the employees of the company. Financial loss, and similarly financial loss and reputation loss. Now what are some of the unseen implications of a successful APT attack? For the affected company, it will mean more cost to secure their system against possible future attacks, besides having to spend more to regain their clients' trust and rebuild their brand's reputation. Now this could involve a complete overhaul of their system, their network infrastructure, as well as some public layoffs of those deemed to have been responsible. Similarly, the affected organization will also have to cooperate with law enforcement and security vendors in order to find the parties responsible, and all of this can result in more losses for the company. For the customers, it involves an increasing distrust in big companies and government organizations, as well as attack groups becoming bolder with every success. So these are some of the unseen implications of a successful APT attack. Alright guys, this is the final quiz. Please go to this link and see how much you have understood till now, or where your knowledge stands.
Welcome to a short tutorial on advanced persistent threat. When you are a successful organization, it means you have valuable information regarding the business and clients. Such organizations are usually targeted by attackers sponsored by foreign government agencies or competitors. Attackers use multiple attack vectors such as internet, email, physical and deception. The attackers pursue their objective to steal information over an extended period of time. This is known as advanced persistent threat. Here is a real case study of advanced persistent threat, when a Fortune 500 company was targeted by a group of attackers. The attackers targeted a group of employees and understood their role in the organization over a period of months. The attackers sent an email with a spreadsheet as an attachment, which had a malware in it. Some of the employees clicked on the attachment and the malware was activated. What did the malware do? Probed and mapped the network to find strategic systems containing target information, found users with high-level administrative privileges and captured their credentials. Used the credentials to access systems with target information. Cost of this attack. The estimated loss for the company was $66 million. Let us learn more about how the attackers will target an organization. They understand the business of the organization and the client profile. They usually target people working in sensitive positions who have access to critical information. The attackers use various tactics like spear phishing. Clicking the links in the message or opening the attachments will infect your system and will steal data without your knowledge. Social engineering. They may befriend you in social media and make you disclose sensitive information. They may make phone calls and pretend to be someone trustworthy and ask for information. They may even try to enter the facility through fake means and steal information. They may hide malware in USB devices that you may receive as a gift. Attackers may entice you to download and install software, usually pirated software, that has malware hidden in it. These malware steal information, or by overhearing business information discussed in public. How do you stay safe from advanced persistent threat? On social media, be careful of what you are discussing online about your job. Reveal only the most minimum information. Connect online with only those whom you know in real life. Social engineering. Do not respond to requests for sensitive business information via phone, email or direct contact. Direct them to Public Relations Department. Internet and email. Do not visit any inappropriate websites. Do not click on any suspicious links or attachments in emails. Portable devices. Do not insert any USB devices to business computers. Do not try to connect to business computers from personal devices via Bluetooth. Thank you for participating and stay safe.
So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. For any queries or questions, or if you have any further clarification, feel free to contact me anytime at my email IDs given here. Thank you very much, guys.